Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and as we near the end of Inazuma, I felt it was pretty timely to look back at all the new characters being released since 2.0 and give them an overall rating of how they performed through the patches. Also, I started this channel proper since Raiden's first banner and would really like to dedicate this relatively high effort video to you guys for helping us hit 2000 subs. Thank you for your support throughout the past year, and I'll be definitely here for you for the entire Sumeru as well. As always, we don't waste time on this channel, so let's jump right in with the rating matrix. Now, we split it up into 4 categories, and as a quick note, I do think that all 9 of the new 5 stars are really good and still has a place in the game. That's why the lowest tier is rated A and not F or something else. But those ranked in A tier tend to be a little bit more niche and requires a little more resources to see a certain amount of value. This tier list is also backward looking, which means it doesn't consider future elemental reactions and characters being added into the game, like say Sumeru or Dendro reactions. Now let's kick things off with Kamisato Ayaka. Now most of the challenging content in Inazuma Abyss was either monsters with shields like Lectors or big single target monsters like the Perpetual Mechanical Array. Ayaka shreds through most of these with ease and is probably the highest on this list if anyone was considering a character at C0. To show how overpowered she was, I tried to challenge myself with a 36 star clear with a level 1 Ayaka in one of the recent Abyss runs. In my opinion, her only issue in this entire past year has really only been the Spectres, who were not able to be crowd controlled by a Nemo. But recently this patch has just changed that and now they all can be CC'd, so really nothing stops me from rating her the highest double S tier, if not the second highest double S tier. Amazing at C0, and she has strong free to play options and doesn't need any other 5 star to function properly. Raiden Shogun. Raiden is an insane battery and team buffer at C0, and is part of the rampant Raiden national team consisting of Raiden, Xingqiu, Xiangling, and Bennett. This team comp basically tore through most content in Inazuma and only consisted of one 5-star character, the Electro Archon herself. Raiden basically allowed players to save resources, pull on an Archon, and carry on. A team of Raiden National in the first half and a Ayaka variant in the second half would have been plenty enough to clean up most content throughout the patches 2.0 all the way to 2.8. Raiden scales extremely well with investments and constellations as well. Her famous one being C2 that really changes her playstyle for being a quick swap supportive type unit to a main DPS and reliable unit to clear all sorts of content. I have her at C6 personally for her Broken Last constellation, but I recommend most players just going for C2 to prevent hitting the diminishing returns of going for more and more constellations. Double S tier for being meta and Archon and scaling well over time too, as people will eventually get their C2 Raiden if they play long enough. Possibly my top recommendation of this tier list. While Yoimiya and Kokomi saw upside from their first banner with dedicated supports like Yunjin or artifact sets, Yae Miko actually got shafted with the arrival of Kuki Shinobu. Kuki offered a niche of playing EM Electro and a healer, meaning that Yae Miko was left to compete with Raiden in most Electro teams. While Raiden offers battery, damage buffing, and burst damage, Yae Miko is more selfish in her playstyle, which in a sense demands a lot of field time, but also being less supportive in her abilities and has slightly inferior raw damage. She is my favourite character in all of Inazuma and probably all of Genshin, but I am not blind to see that Hoyoverse is neglecting this character. I'll rank her a heart-wrenching A tier and will put her on the lowest on this list. High competition and no real niche. One real hope that I have is that new artifact sets and Dendro reactions will come and shift her more into the meta. Ayato was released as the second new Hydro 5-star unit in a flurry of Hydro's 5-star releases by MiHoYo in Inazuma. If we actually look back at the 9 new limited 5-star characters, a third of them, 3 out of 9, were actually Hydro units, which is actually quite interesting now that we look back and realize that maybe that's why they re-ran Childe's banner so quickly when he was the only limited 5-star Hydro unit, because they knew that they were planning to release more Hydro units in future. Now, Yelan and Ayato fulfill totally different roles, so the real competition he has is between Childe and Kokomi. The one clear advantage that Ayato has over Kokomi is that he has access to Bennett in his team comps and benefits from additional units like Yunjin, Kuki Shinobu, and etc. With access to crit multipliers as well, it's easy to run a simple team comp like Ayato Hypercarry and see great value right away from him too. Before Kuki Shinobu, it was very difficult to run Taser with Ayato, since your Anemo unit will most likely have to be a defensive one like Jin or Sayu for the sustain. Ayato is in the middle of Kokomi and Chao in terms of his overall positioning, offensive and defensive. He offers great hydro application as well. But because of strong competition and choice, I'll rank him as S tier. He's always a good choice, but not as universal as some of the other double S tier characters on this list. Arataki Itto is a solid character all around. Good damage at C0, works well with free-to-play White Blind, team comps are simple, and overall never useless through the cycles of the Abyss so far. I used the analogy of Itto being a sledgehammer the last time, and I think that is still relevant today. He gets most of the job done, Unga Bunga style, but often there was more efficient ways of closing the window than with a sledgehammer. Most of his popular teams involve multiple 5 stars in the team composition, like Zhongli or Albedo, making running him usually a luxury, especially for players trying to save up resources. I did find a team of only 4 stars where he works amazingly well in, and I'll link the guide in the video card above for those of you who are interested. Overall, A tier, and is probably my benchmark for a good and decent character, and the minimum I expect all future characters to perform like, especially if we are expected to fork out dollars for them. Shenhe. Shenhe is a prime example of a character who is really solid on paper, but with the meta changes after her banner, her position became slightly awkward. Most content that requires cryo to clear consisted of breaking enemy shields. In a sense, more application of cryo is more important than more cryo damage, to speed up your clears. Of course, Shenhe helps newer players meet the DPS thresholds quicker, but for most players already at endgame, Ayaka did sufficient damage on her own already. For me personally, I found myself using Ganyu a little more than Shenhe in an Ayaka team, especially if I wanted to speedrun the Abyss and break shields quicker. But don't get me wrong, Shenhe is a solid character that is the best in slot class cryo buffer. But for most of Inazuma, the content didn't really allow her to excel and requiring the additional damage that she really excels in. Nonetheless, she definitely made it possible to play more 4-star cryo units as damage dealers like Chongyun and Chongyun Hyper Carry team, and if there are more cryo damage dealers in future, Shenhe will always grow in value and is a good investment for the long term. This one is a keeper, but for now, I'll have to rank her A tier for an overall rating for Inazuma. Niche character that was boxed out because of Abyss lineups and requirements. Yoimiya was one of those characters who had a lot of heat and controversy, but in truth, most of her low rating by the community is largely due to her release timing. Her first banner was sandwiched between Ayaka and Raiden, 2 extremely popular and well-sold banners, making her inherently already a rare character to own. Pyro characters are also very highly competitive, given the likes of Xiangling national team and Hu Tao already being prevalent before Yoimiya was released. Yoimiya's strange ICD also made her a questionable vape character. But over the course of the entire Inazuma Abyss, we have seen mobs that require some form of range targeting like the Golden Wolf Lord, Spectres, Thundering Manifestation, and etc. With the recent patches and changes to ranged bullets now tracking enemies better, and the introduction of characters like Yunjin, who buffs normal attacks, I do think Yoimiya does have a place in the meta and feels much more easier to play than Hu Tao at C0 in terms of understanding jump cancels and dodge mechanics or shielding and etc. I'll place Yoimiya in S tier, simple and convenient to use, and saw gradual improvements throughout the patches. Sangonomiya Kokomi. Viewers who have followed my content for a while now know that I was always pro Kokomi from the start. In a resource-scarce game, characters that can do many roles at once are always valuable. Kokomi is a Swiss Army knife like Jin, but is better in a sense because she is a Hydro unit, which is pivotal in most elemental reactions. Sumeru will likely push the element to be a clear number 1, but this tier list is backward looking, so let's not talk about that for now, and leave it for another video. Whenever you are not sure of what character to fill in the last slot, chances are Kokomi is always one of the options you could put in, and she won't be irrelevant in that team comp. She also makes your overall account much more efficient, taking pieces that your main DPS and sub DPS will never use, and I'm very comfortable with ranking her still as a double S tier. Yelan is the newest addition to the bunch, and is the 3rd new Hydro 5-star unit for Inazuma. Despite the short runway she had since her arrival, it's clear that this unit is meta. She is what many people call a 5-star Xingqiu, and more than that, she works well as a duo with Xingqiu in a Hu Tao team too. I've already done more guides on her, but I'll leave you with this thought that is how I justified my rating. If you had to pay money to improve your account, either through your savings or otherwise, most likely the other double S tiers will be higher up on your priority list since they are able to carry most accounts single-handedly. Yelan, on the other hand, builds on already developed accounts looking to take things one step further. But this tier list needs to take into account all types of players, and for that I'll have to rank Yelan as S tier. Meta and amazing, but I wish to just keep the number of double S tiers on this list to just 3. Sumeru will be a huge game changer. Until then, check out these 2 other tier lists that you might find interesting as well. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.